to inspire and equip the next generation of aviators. We achieve this by offering educational aviation seminars and tours to high school students. Our media channel, we provide our audience with relevant information on aviation filled through panel discussions, interviews with aviation professionals. We offer high school students the Junior Aviator course to broaden their understanding of aviation as well as increase their chances of getting into top aviation schools. We also offer Aviation Refresher and Advanced course on aviation topics. All our courses are carefully designed by aviation experts with international aviation qualifications in a wide range of aviation disciplines. The courses are designed to equip aviators with modern and relevant skills applicable in today's aviation world. Inspire, equip, empower, Flight Wings Aviation.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on the time zone you're watching us on. Welcome to the Big Sky, the show where we get to explore the unlimited possibilities of aviation. And today's episode is a bit weird, right? Today I have my co-host. Hi, Gugu.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good.
How's been the day?
Fairly well. Thank
Today's your debut, and you're not giving me energy. What's going on? This is a time I'm expecting you to. I'm happy to see you. By the way, it's been a lonely past two episodes. So yeah, 3 episodes, I guess. Yeah, and it's good to see you today. And welcome everyone who's just joined us. Welcome to the Big Sky show where we get to explore the unlimited possibilities of aviation. So at this very point, go say hi to the people, and yeah, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight in Untitled. This is my first time here as a co-host. I'm looking forward to a great show. And please feel free to ask anything or comment anything in the comment section so that our guest will have to address it whilst us speaking. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you haven't liked, subscribe, please do so. And if you're joining us for the first time, we are basically an educational consultancy based on three mantras: we equip, inspire, and empower. So, moving on to today's program. Today we have a special guest, as always. And without wasting much time, A little bit of drum roll. Google, give me a drum roll. Mr. Robert. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Did we just lose him? I think we did. Yes, whilst we wait for him to come back and technical glitch, Google, what does
Yeah.
aviation mean to us? What does aviation mean to you? I mean,
Should I answer or now we are waiting for
yeah,
him
you
to?
can, you can. Whilst Robert is rolling in, yeah.
All right. So aviation to me is an aircraft maintenance engineer. It actually I'm taking this as a quote from someone. It's a branch of engineering that is least forgiving of mistakes.
Huh, awesome. So, as Fly Wings Aviation, we aim to give people an awareness of aviation in its whole entirety. So, most of the guests that you're going to see are basically aviators and inspiring and actually fully fledged aviators, like the guest that we have today. Mr. Roberts, are we there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Great, great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. For two, we're first of all we're quite excited and honored to have you on the show, as always. And yes, you can greet our guests firstly briefly, and then we kickstart what we have for today.
Okay. Good evening to everybody. I'll, I'm very grateful to be invited here, and thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Mr. Robert, tell us about yourself, and yeah, just tell us about yourself without preempting a lot, but just let's just break the ice. Like tell us who Mr. Robert is, and briefly on that note.
Well, Robert is an aviator, um, and with a lot of interests in life. I don't limit myself. I look at situations and opportunities, and I make use of them. Well, I hope I have revealed my.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you don't limit yourself to to life. Basically, you allow yourself to explore the vast opportunities in the world. I was reading your bio. I think as we move on and then we reveal more about you, I want to say it's an interesting bio and it's an interesting turnaround of life on how someone can change their lives from a different from a course this way into another way. So I'm quite excited to hear how you're gonna like open up type that type of narrative and how you then decide to do what you do now. So from a young age, from O level, take us from when you were high school to where you are right now as a qualified aircraft maintenance engineer.
Thank you very much for that. I did my O level at a school in Zarasekwa High School. It was Zarasekwa number one high school. You know how it is in the suburbs. We were number one, number two. So we were at Zarasekwa number one high school, and that's where I did my O level. Then after that, I proceeded to do A level at Alan Wilson School in Harare.
Dub.
Yeah. And Yeah, ADAP. We used to call it ADAP.
Yeah, Dub. Yeah, Dub, I
How
know.
do you know that?
I
I
know
thought
because
you would.
I learned in
You
Churchill,
learned
so I
there.
would know.
Oh, okay, yeah, ADAP.
So I would
The
know. I
guys
would
in
know.
black. Were the guys in
Now
black?
I feel
Yeah.
out of place. Now I feel out of place.
Don't. I mean, yeah.
So
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 go on.
so that's what I did. That's where I did my eighth. Then after A level, you know, it was exciting during those years. What was very exciting was after A level, you'd go back to your school and do some temporary teaching, which I did. You know, you'll just be it will just after A level, and we used to call ourselves, oh, we have a lot of data. We used to call it data because we had a lot of knowledge with us oozing out of us, literally. So it would be very interesting to stand in front of a class and display all that knowledge to innocent kids. So it was very interesting. So I did that. I did my temporary teaching back in my school. I remember I went back, my headmaster there, and it was very exciting. Then after that, it was just a short stint, about 7 months. Then I went and I was a banker for another 7 months. But I'd always liked to do something technical. So when I saw an advert in the paper for aircraft maintenance engineer, I was excited. You know, any young person, you know, anything to do with aircraft is fascinating. So I just thought, well, I think I can go for this one. And I went for it. And the rest is history. On the 9th of April, 1990, that's when I started my training with the national airline. And it was an exciting experience to train with the national airline. So that's basically it. That's how I entered into aviation. Yeah, I still don't want to preempt a lot. So to this day, I am still in aviation.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts, for sharing with us about your educational background. So now, from the time that you joined the national airline until where you are now, we need to know what really has been your drive and how has been your journey so far as an aircraft maintenance engineer.
But obviously, just like any other human being, the drive stems from family. You have a duty to your family, your core family, and your extended family, and maybe the rest of the people that are around you. So those who drive you to do more and explore yourself more, so that maybe so basically that's where my drive stems from. But in as far as aircraft maintenance is concerned, I can safely say that we were very lucky to be trained by people who were really dedicated to the industry, and we learned a lot of things from them practically, and even at the technical school we learned a lot. Our syllabus, it's just that sometimes you will only see the extent to which you learned after so many years, after you have been in the industry for a long time, and now you are comparing, you have gone places and you are comparing and you are saying to yourself, oh, so we learned a lot. So there was a lot that we learned. I remember when I had just qualified, we were very lucky to do a D check on the Boeing 707. It was a very detailed inspection, and we literally reduced the aircraft to a shell. And I remember some flight crew coming into the hangar and asking us, is this aircraft ever going to fly again? And we were confident. We said yes, because we knew what we were doing. And we completed that job. And because we were very confident of the job that we did, we were the first passengers of that aircraft. And when I say the first passengers, I mean we went for the test flight. And it was not a short test flight, it was very long. And I can tell you that because it was taken to extreme maneuvers, including Dutch rolls and you name it. So I have never seen, in my years of flying on the aircraft, I had never seen so many people make use of the sickness bags because of the maneuvers that we went through. But it was a very successful check, and we came back with very, very minimal defects. So that's how I'm giving this as an example because that's how I was launched into aviation. Aviation needs a lot of precision. So precision, and you need to be a very responsible person. So it is something that just doesn't come on its own. You need the training, and you learn every day.
Awesome. As I was listening to you, I was actually thinking to myself, the level of confidence you have. I mean, you're reading a newspaper and then you saw a notice, and then you quickly grasped to it, and then you changed. I mean, take me through your decision making process and where you get this confidence, because I think things like aviation, these are things that are in the community that are really built to people who are supposed to be this intelligent, this and that. So you might not feel, or you might not think you are incapable enough. So where did you get this confidence of saying, you know what, I want a change of scenery in my career and I can do this? Take us through that confidence of yours, and how you can also share a little bit of advice on how other people who are stuck in their certain line of doing things, can move into another um, avenue of anything else, regardless if it's aviation or if it's something else.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Because I like writing about things like that a lot. So what I can say about life is that you are the author of your life. You given everything that you require for your life. So basically what it is if you look at your life, there are a lot of things that happen in your life today, and say, oh, this is something that is just happening to me. But I've seen a lot of things that I go through as lessons. I've talked to you about me being a temporary teacher at one point, and I can safely tell you that I can tell you I had a lot of lessons from those stints that I had, the 7 months stints. But in terms of how I arrive at decisions to say, oh, let me now do this, I'm guided by the fact that I've told myself from a very young age that I don't want to be ordinary, because there are a lot of people who are in that level. So what I want to be is to be extraordinary. Why? Because when you are at the extraordinary level, you have no competition. A lot of people, like I said, are on the ordinary side. So at the extraordinary side, there is no competition. So if you aspire to be extraordinary, you will always have no competition. You compete against yourself. So basically, that's what guides me. It's a principle that that propels me forward. I'm always looking at, okay, how can I make myself extraordinary in this situation? And then you just come out of your shell and you do more, and you will be more. I don't know if I've
And
confused you enough.
maybe you could more, but I mean, you still have a couple of minutes to still confuse me, so it's fine. It's fine. Bring it on. But anyway, I like the fact that you said the ordinary part where you defined yourself, and then you said, I really want to be extraordinary as well. And the reason why I'm asking this is because we have young viewers who are listening, and basically our mantra is inspire, empower, and equip. So we really needed to hear this part of guidance when you're choosing a career and so forth. So as a person who fluctuated from different careers, and we had situation like COVID that happened 2 years ago. Then how did that did we lose him? Yes. And how did that make him uh think again or regret? I mean that's where we're going, Google. But anyways, yes, Google. Yes, how are you feeling your first debut? I mean, you've been quite quiet, or you're still kind of building up, Tell us.
It's my first day. Please remember how the past two episodes have been for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like you feel like you're like, oh my days, I'm actually here right now. But you're here, you're live. I
Exactly.
mean,
Like I can't
whenever
believe I'm
whenever you
here.
question it, look at your left side and you see a red thing. That means you're live. I mean today you're in and so forth. But anyways, Flywings announcements as we move on as our guest comes back. Basically, our junior aviation course is out there, and if you do want to know more about it, you can visit our website, and our website goes as www.flightwingsaviationglobal.com. So everything you need to know about the services that we provide workshops, we provide seminars, we provide courses, and all of these things are basically reachable and affordable to all of you. So I invite all of you to definitely visit our page, and as well visit our YouTube page. If you're on YouTube right now, thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button, like it, share it, do all of those good stuff. And if you're watching us if you like Facebook and you have Facebook data or what that is, you can also watch us on Facebook as well. We do cross streaming, so we will basically be available at any convenience of your choice as well. So anything to do with the aviation courses I mentioned, visit our website and you'll definitely see there. And most of the time we do have discounts as well, so you should look out for those each and every single time. We definitely do announce when we have those. So welcoming back our guest, Mr. Robert. Are
Sorry
you
for
back?
that.
It's
I'm
all
back.
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm.
So as you disappeared slightly, I was building on a notion that um, COVID hit, and as a person who fluctuated from career to career, you did temporal teaching at some point, you did banking, and then you're doing aircraft maintenance engineering now. When COVID hit, and one of the industries that were hit so bad was the aviation, or is the aviation industry. What was your thought? What was your thought process going on? I mean, the effects of a pandemic, and mainly this is the final, not the final, but this is the career you're currently holding right now. What went through your mind, when COVID happened? Did you have regrets at some point, or take us through that journey?
Um, the thing is, with where I am now, I think maybe I have not told the whole story yet. Yes, I did aircraft maintenance. I worked in the hangar. I worked at the line, and I also worked in what we call CAMO, or at the time it was called technical services. And from there, I then, sought to, to sponsor myself to learn about quality assurance in aviation, which I did. Then I can say that's where I am now. I do quality and safety. So I did some consulting work after that, and from there, then I rejoined the airline corporate world. So in terms of the COVID-19 really affected affected aviation in a very big way. We were fortunate in that for us, yes, we were affected. There was a lockdown for about 2 months, well, a month to 2 months. That was about March and April 2020. So that lockdown was really a down period for most of us. But again, we consider ourselves lucky because where I am, domestic aviation is quite a big thing. A lot of people travel domestically on aircraft, so we quickly got back on. And the COVID situation was well managed here as well. And, protocols were quickly put in place so that the travel would not still be a dangerous thing to partake. So basically, COVID did affect aviation, but you find that it affected some areas or some countries more than others. Some airlines are only coming back into operation now. But for us, like I said, we went back into flying after about 2 months, like I said. So, and we've been flying to this day. So, but for some people, it was an unprecedented occurrence that really affected a lot of families. A lot of people who went into depression. But it's one of those things. It's pandemics come now and again, and people have to understand that we are in a world where pandemics do exist, and we just have to observe what we are told by the scientists. It's very unfortunate that sometimes everyone wants to become a scientist in these situations, maybe because people feel that this is something that they've never thought of. It's frightening. So they would rather then, they would rather get comfort from conspiracy theories and so on. So it's something that people just have to know that it's there. And when doctors say do this, let's stick to that. Most of our industry. But again, we work with, like in our case, because I'm in quality, we work a lot with IATA, and IATA would produce at every point guidance material that we would use in terms of continuing with our work. So it came in very, very handy. So guided aviation a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. So I'm sorry, but I'd like to take you back a bit. So the time you were talking about your work experience, you mentioned about precision and accuracy. So I just want to ask, the level of precision and accuracy that's demanded in the aviation industry, has it at one point scare you, or you've always been fine with it? Because I think at the beginning of this show, Isaac asked me what aviation means to me. And I told him that as an engineer, to me, it's a branch of engineering that's least forgiving of mistakes. Like you have to be on point most of the time. But then, the human being is inherently unreliable. So has this level of precision, accuracy that's demanded ever scared you before?
Okay, so if I don't know if I heard you correctly, you are asking about the precision that is demanded in aviation. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's very, very true. This is one thing that sets us apart from most industries. It is very crucial for us because when you look at the work that we do, we don't have room for error. We are working on machinery that does not travel on the ground. It travels in air. I always tell people that, there's no parking space in the air. Unlike your motor car or your motor vehicle, when you experience a fault while driving, you can easily just park on the side of the road. If you can fix whatever the problem is, fix it. Or if you call a tow truck, it can tow you. But nothing like that is available for our aircraft. So whatever you do in aviation, whatever inspection you are doing, you have to make sure that that inspection is properly done. Because if the original equipment manufacturer says to you that you have to inspect a certain area, it is because they know the rate of failure of that area. So when you do inspection, you have to be thorough. It's high precision inspection. It's not something that you can just gloss over and say, oh, I've inspected, then you go and sign. You have to do it properly, because it is the difference between people being safe on the aircraft and people being in danger. The issues of safety in aviation are real. So that's why precision is crucially important in our field. And again, it's something that you have to develop from training itself, from the classroom. It's not something that just comes, because you are now working on the craft. You have to really consciously make a decision to say, I cannot let this one go. If you are not sure, you would rather you take the extreme decision to say, I will not let this aircraft go, rather than saying, okay, I think it's okay. No, there's no I think it's okay in aviation. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. So moving on from the time that you started your apprenticeship training until now that you're qualified with all the experience that you have, what challenges have you faced and how have you dealt with them?
Like right now, I can tell you some of the challenges come because you are finding a completely new environment, and you are meeting completely new people. Because in the olden days, when we were really doing apprenticeship, the issue of being an apprentice, the aim was you would become what we call journeyman. A journeyman basically meant that you would be given you would have your toolbox, and once you qualify, the company that trained you not necessarily have to keep you. They could say, oh, now you are qualified, so you can go. You can start journeying. When you journey, you are looking for jobs, and then you do the job, and then if you want to move, you move again to the next level. So that's where the word journeyman came from. So you'll find that when you go to new places, it is not easy. You have to be very confident of yourself to throw yourself out there to say, oh, okay, I'm now going to work for such and such an airline. So when you do that, you meet new people who do not know you and who do not know your background. Some of them are sizing you up, and yourself as well, you have to be a very strong character, because if you are not a strong character, people will always judge you, and if you yield to that, what happens is that you lose your confidence. So it is very important for you to develop very good ways of relating with people, be accommodative, and people will accept you. But also you must deliberately be a person of the people, because you are meeting new people, very different cultures from yourself. So the challenges will always be there. Again, with our work, this industry is highly regulated. And when we say it's highly regulated, we mean that there are a lot of safety regulations that are in the industry. We are flying machinery that's suspended in the air, and it is obviously necessary for us to be highly regulated. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for us to be safe. So because we are highly regulated, we also follow a regime of standards that are very strict on us, and you are guided all the time by either regulations or standards. So you always have a fallback, or you always have documentation that you can fall back on and say, okay, what does this particular standard say concerning this issue? So you have to be well read. So whatever challenge you get, you can always revert to books to guide you. So that's basically what it is. And in our industry, like you were talking about, in our industry, it is very important for you to be manual dependent. The original equipment manufacturer's manual is your Bible. Never depend only on your wits, because they will fail you. But the OEM manuals will always guide you accordingly.
Wow, precision, precision and was that we're talking about you being a quality control person, and does this also transcend to your other aspects of life, or it's just it's just aviation? Is it something that's in you, in terms of perfection and making sure things are actually in order? Yeah,
Well,
because it has to start from somewhere.
that's
I
an
mean,
interesting question, because you know, I can't be my own judge, but well, others like you will judge me. But you know, the issues of quality, once you become a quality assurance person, you start seeing faults. You can easily see faults when you are traveling, or when you get into a room and you are looking at the walls, or you are looking at how the construction was done. You can easily say, oh, they made a mistake there. But a person who is not in quality may not be able to see that. Because when we audit, these are some of the things we look at. We look for consistency. We look for how something looks like. Is it something that, you know, it is supposed to be? Is it at the right place? Do we have the right you know, firefighting equipment, for example? I have a friend who is in quality also, who once came to my home and he said to me, oh, you don't have fire bottles here. What if there's a fire? You see, so that kind of approach to life comes with the calling, or with the profession. Once you are in quality, you'll start seeing things very differently, and you want to correct everything. But obviously, you have to do it in a very nice way. Otherwise, people say, "Oh, that guy, he always sees our wrongs."
I can imagine being around you. I can imagine being around you, being pointed everything that you do. But I do understand what you mean, and I actually pointed it out because it's a habit usually. So, and some traits that you have can actually help you in polishing up your career. So, talking in
Yes,
that regard, let's talk about aviation itself, specifically
yes.
Africa. Yes, you mentioned something about currently, just to our viewers who do not know, just tell them where you're based and everything, so you can shed more light, because I believe we're international, so many people from different countries do watch us. So
Okay,
talk about your history, where basically
okay.
you're based, and yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm currently based in West Africa, in Ghana to be specific. So that's where I work for an airline that is like the current domestic player, if you like. But we also do international routes. So African aviation, there is a lot that can be done for African aviation. But for me, what is very important is for young aviators to be trained, and to be trained properly. we need aviators that will really carry the torch forward. And African aviators can do that. Right now, we are exporting a lot of ourselves out there. There are a lot of people who are in the UAE, in Europe. A lot of us are there. But we need to develop our own aviation in Africa. And it is important for us to start training more young aviators. And like I said earlier, when we need to do it properly, we need to instill the values of aviation. Because what is happening currently is that you get people, you know, I don't mean into the industry. They have been trained elsewhere, not trained, they have graduated from universities. And they are coming in to the aviation industry. There's nothing wrong with that. But because they are coming in with degrees, we look at them or we place them at a certain level. And as a result, we do not do as much training on them as we should have. It is very important, you know, the simple things that we thought were simple that we did at the technical school. Those things are what ground you to be a proper engineer. Those workshop practice sessions, those workshop theories that we went through, when we were practicing how to file, for example, or when initially when you go into the hangar, you are regarded as, when you go into the hangar, you are just given a handle because you are initially you are an apprentice. So they say, go remove the panels. That is proper training. Be able to remove screws, grunging proper. So it's important. Those basics are very, very important. So we need proper training of our young. And we also need maybe cooperation between different authorities of African countries. In Europe, we have the EASA, right? So I don't see why, as Africans, we should not develop our own, maybe we can call it FASA, where we cooperate, we have, we give licenses to engineers as a FASA. This is very important because it improves the fluidity of our skills. We can move from one country to the next without the limitations of being asked, okay, where did you get this license? We need to validate it and things like that. That way, we can then fertilize each other with skills. In Africa today, if you look at Africa as it stands, you'll find that the majority of aircraft maintenance engineers are probably concentrated in one area. You'll find that you need then to move those to the other areas, which I don't want to mention. I actually can tell you the regions where you have more engineers than the other areas. And that is historical because what happened is that the flag carriers, when flag carriers collapsed, it was a long time ago. So the engineers of the time expired with the airlines, and now there was not much training that went on in those countries that had their airlines collapsed. So you'll find that you have aviators that are concentrated in one region, but at the same time, it's not easy to cross over to come to the other region. So if we were to come together, if authorities were to come together and establish an agency like EASA in Africa, it would also help us a lot. So yeah, African aviation can really be very great, because if the Europeans and the UAE, for example, are thriving on our skills, it means that we have something to offer. Why can't we organize ourselves as Africans and instead develop ourselves internally? It can be done, but it is a choice. It's a matter of choice. Are we willing to come together and then be the development that we want to see? And again, the thing is, if you develop African aviation in that way, where you have come together as one authority, what will also happen is that the failure of individual authorities in different countries will then it will not be an issue, because you have one authority anyway. So that will help in the development of the industry.
Well, I like the emphasis on the education part and equipping people as well. Do you think also the less awareness of aviation as a whole contributes to some of these problems, where maybe we have too much pilots, but we have less people this other side and everything? Don't you think also it's time that the aviation industry is fully explained to people? Because some of these things we only know them later on with exposure, but as we're young, when you're choosing your career, you might not even know about all of these things. And I believe if you're young and if you start off right, you could actually become something that is very great. Can you shed anything on that, like how aviation itself is not really like explained fully, or maybe it's just me, but I see that as one of the hindrance in Africa.
Okay, yeah. It's very important they say catch them young. It is very important to educate very young people on aviation. Aviation is peculiar in that you learn a lot out of it. We're discussing on precision. Aviation is one of the few industries that once you get into it and you learn how to do things in aviation, you have a skill that not many people will have. So even if you move to a different industry altogether, people will recognize you and say, oh, the way you do your things is completely different. Because like I said earlier, aviation is a highly regulated industry. And you are always guided by the regulation, by the standards. And so for you to wander away, it is very, very difficult to wander away from the laid down, where it's the procedures, the laid down methods of doing things. So it is important now to really endeavor to train young people. You know, there are certain countries, I won't mention them by name, they train people in whatever they want to do or they choose to do from a very, very young age. You know, we are talking about what we call, maybe in Zimbabwe, it would be called early childhood learning. People already know which direction of profession they are going to be pursuing, and they will be taught in that line. So if I can imagine, if, for example, somebody starts learning from a very tender age on theory of flight, for example, aerodynamics, you know, do you generate lift? You know, doing games that relate to that, that will be very, very good for the industry. You'll find that by the time that person is of age, he will be a quality person. They will really add value to the industry. So to answer you in short, yes, it is good to start very early. Very, very good. Very important.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that and mentioning how catching them young is very important, which is what we are standing for is Flight Wings Aviation. For those who are joining us in the middle right now, basically we're a consultants company. We are basically based on the three mantras. We inspire, we equip, and we empower. We do workshops, um, we do seminars, we do so much stuff to bring more awareness about aviation as a whole. So as we were still talking about Africa at large on how it can improve and so forth, do you think Africa is ready to become a hub where the greatest aviators are from without them being exported? Do you think there's a way where we can preserve our African aviators? Do you think there's any way we can do so? The way we have preserved you right now in West Africa. How can we preserve more people of your stature and of your knowledge?
Um, I actually think yes, Africa is capable of preserving its talent, but we have to be organized to do so. Like I said, we have to move away from a situation where aviation is affected by the political situation, for example, of a country. Because once the economy is affected, they say that if the political situation is stable, or if the country has caught a cold, the economy ceases. So basically, what it is we need a situation where aviation remains solid, even in a failing economy. So we have to create that particular situation. So where an aviator is not affected by whatever is happening back home, but still within Africa, we are having situations where we've exported so many of our people out there. And who is suffering? It's Africa. Even the aviation industry itself is suffering because we are exporting our capabilities to the outside world without developing our own. But again, look, it boils down to the fact that a human being, we have responsibilities. Is Africa willing to pay us what we can be paid elsewhere? That's the bottom question. So if Africa is willing to pay, it will retain the talent. But if it is not willing, then the talent will keep escaping and going elsewhere. But again, people will talk to you about the issues of being patriotic. How patriotic are we as Africans? But patriotism will only come if we also organize ourselves better. Maybe if we were to come together as aviators and influence our authorities to come up with the answer I've talked about earlier on, where we have a body that will organize us and our licenses will be so determined by them, so that we are not, we are not bogged down by national issues. We are in Africa and we have everything in Africa, but all we need to do is to organize ourselves better. I'm risking going into politics, but that's basically what it is. This is the politics of the stomach, and so it comes in here and there. But what it is we just have to organize ourselves better. The initiatives like this one are very important for the industry, because then that's what grows the industry. I've talked about us training the young people, because the young people are not the future; they are the now, because they can influence the change. Yes.
Wow. Season. We're in season 2, by the way. Season 1, we had an opportunity of interviewing very young individuals, and I was proud. people who started off their journey at 17, ending being qualified at 23, and so forth. And then that's what we're trying to inspire and continue. And yes, Scooby, you were young. Yes. So we're trying to inspire that, and we want, if you're watching right now, yes, you're not too young to do this, and the future is now. Actually, it's not future, but the future is really now. Google, as we draw closer to the end, do you have any final questions that you would want to ask Robert?
Oh, yes, I do. So I actually have two questions before we. How many minutes are we left with?
No, no, go ahead, go ahead. We have time.
Okay, fine. So I'd like to ask Mr. Rupert what he thinks are the top three values that a good aircraft maintenance engineer should have. Top three.
Thank you. Thank you. Top three. I would say the first one is responsibility. You know, as an AME, you have a very big responsibility on your shoulders. Whenever you are talking that bolt, or whenever you are removing that wheel, whatever task you've been given, just remember that the load that you are carrying on your shoulders is the safety of that aircraft. So you have to have that responsibility conscience in mind. It is not just removing a wheel or just talking a wheel. It is actually making that aircraft safe. That's how you should. So that responsibility, that sense of responsibility must be guiding you all the time. Like I said, there is no parking space up there. So whatever you do, if you make a wrong decision, it is the difference between that aircraft coming down or that aircraft landing properly. So it is important for you to have a great sense of responsibility. The second one, I would say, is that you need to follow the original equipment manufacturer's manual. Right. I want to qualify that. I'll give you an example. Back in 1979, there was an air crash of a DC-10. And that air crash was caused by improper procedure. That DC-10, I won't mention which airline it is on this program, but what it is there's a method that was recommended in the manual, not recommended, that was supposed to be followed because it was in the manual, in the DC-10 manual. DC-10, by the way, is made by McDonnell and Douglas. So there was a method of removing the pylon. The method was that you have to remove the engine first before you remove the pylon. But because there were some people who said, okay, but if we remove the engine still connected to the pylon, we are going to save 200 man-hours, right? And we are going to disconnect less pipes. Saving 200 man-hours relates to commercial pressure. Once you save 200 man-hours, you save money, right? But also the second thing is that they said you disconnect less pipe. Once you disconnect less pipe, they argued that if you disconnect less pipes, you are safer because it means the chance of you leaving any one pipe disconnected will be less, right? So they reasoned that it was better. Actually, in America, there were 3 airlines that were using that method. But this particular unfortunate one in 1979, the aircraft, when it was taking off, it lost that engine and it disconnected the hydraulic pipes. Oh, it was a hell. And it was carrying 271 passengers and they all perished. There were 2 other people who were on the ground who perished together with the 271. Why did that happen? It happened because procedure was not followed. Which procedure? In the maintenance manual. The best aircraft engineer is one who is continuously guided by the manual. We are not saying engineers are not innovative to come up with their own ways of doing things, but that has to be done within the dictates of the industry. Because basically what happens is that the reason why manuals are then amended is because the operators have probably liaised with the OEMs to say, this particular procedure, we are suggesting that, can we do it this way? Once you do that, the original equipment manufacturer will then look into it and do what we call a risk analysis, and look at things and say, okay, if this method is to be employed, what are the risks? If there are risks, how do we mitigate against those? So it's not a simple process of somebody just thinking, okay, I'm now going to change this procedure and do it this way. If you do that, that can result in accidents. So that's my second point. My second point, I want to emphasize, follow the original equipment manufacturer's manual. Right? So the third point is that never stop learning. And when I say never stop learning, I'm not confining your learning to aviation issues only. There are a lot of things that you can learn from aviation. But be a well-rounded person. Learn from every book. Be pragmatic about it. Learn about everything. Don't limit yourself. Be a whole person. You will be surprised what will fit into your career. You learn from a book that has nothing to do with aviation, and you apply that into aviation. I particularly, my MBA is in entrepreneurship. So you cannot separate entrepreneurship from innovation. So you have to be an innovative person. And, innovative person is a person who is looking at even the way you do things, your procedures. You say, how can we innovate new ways of doing this? How can we save time on this? Okay, so you have to keep on learning. I always say that if you stop learning, you stop adding value. So you have to keep on learning. Learning is, you only stop learning when you die. But as long as you are still breathing, learn. Okay? So basically that's it. Those are the three. It's responsibility, following the manuals, and learning.
All right.
I'm going to interject. Before Google gives us the last question and so forth. You say something about never stop learning, and yes, one thing I was reading your bio as well. You never stop learning to a point whereby you, even not only are you an aviator, but you're also in the music industry. What's that about? To tell us about that as well. Tell us about it. I mean, I'll have to say you're a really interesting man. I mean, the way you make decisions, you're really an interesting man. Tell us about the music industry.
I always say to people, I think my first love was music. I really love music to a very, very great extent. So if you are my friend, or if you are my friends, or if you are in my group, if it's a WhatsApp group, you will know that now and again I'll post music, because I believe that music has a therapeutic effect. You wake up one morning, when I wake up, the first thing I do is to switch on my radio here, which I'm taping right now, because music is so much part of me that I can't see myself without it. Even when I buy a car, it has to have good music. To me, everything else is secondary. what is important is for me to have that good sound that is separating the instruments so that I hear each one of them, even the voices. I want to hear, the things that I can tell you when I describe music. By the way, I comment about music a lot. If artists and ask me, I can even write something on the sleeves for their songs and things like that. But the other thing I want to say is that since you asked about music, is that I'm the current chairman of the Zimbabwe Jazz Community Trust. This is a trust that was formulated by the jazz maestro called Philbert Maroa back in 2016. So I'm the current chairman of that, simply because I love music. I don't consider myself somebody who plays music. I can play the guitar, yes. I don't consider myself as someone who plays music, but someone who appreciates music a lot. To me, music is a very good, a big part. And I do it because I love it. Whatever has something to do with music, I do it with my heart. Even if I don't have time, I make sure that I make time for it because it is a heart call. Strange, right?
Music. I also like jazz, and I do poetry, and jazz and poetry is like they're like related so bad. So yes, music is a good thing, and the way I was introduced to jazz was an interesting way. I remember I had an uncle who used to do this every single Friday. It was his own day, everything. Like, he has the radio, he has the television. He would play jazz from morning until evening. And then the first days you'll be very resistant, and then later on, I started listening to it. So yeah, jazz is actually a good genre. And Google, why are you looking at me as if I'm saying something that's not true? I'm related to the man. I mean, jazz is nice. Jazz is nice, but it's interesting that you have a light side of you. Like, um, you would imagine that it would be all seriousness and everything, but you're basically living the life. I mean, all the facets of life should be enjoyed regardless of whatever career you are into. Google, take us away with the last question in the last
All right, so
remarks.
before I ask my last question, I just want to ask both of you, like, who is your favorite jazz artist?
As for me, it is very difficult for me to say a favorite artist because I'm not. Yes, I am the chairman of Zimbabwe Jazz Community Trust, but I like almost all genre of music because I don't limit myself. But jazz now is like the epitome of music. Is the highest point of it. So so basically that's what it is. But I like I like Afro jazz. I like you name it. Jonathan Butler. I specifically want to mention Jonathan Butler because he has a special place in my heart. George Benson, El Clue. Those are even the people like the Village Pop. I don't know if you know him. He recently passed on. Tsepo Chola. I really love that guy. Tsepo Chola, yeah. Yes. The one who was with Sango Mota at some point, then they part ways. And yeah, so I have a lot of people that I like. And locally, the Philbert Maroa I was talking about is a very good jazz artist. Prudence Katomeni, we have a number of them. Kelly, Rusike, all those guys. They are very, very good. So I like a wide variety of music. But of course, jazz is very good.
No pity me. Google, to answer your question, there's no answer. The world of jazz is so big. I like generations and generations. I cut across generations. I cut generations and generations, to be honest. There are times where I sit down and I listen to Stevie Wonder. There are times where I move on to. I mean, but for me, I like the ones from back in the days. I mean, somehow they have this groove, and I feel like music then had a different story. I think me, I gravitate to more stories. So nowadays, yeah, nowadays is okay, but I mean, back in the days, I think things were still, there were struggles and stories that they were telling that were very essential. Jazz meant something different then than what it means now. So for me, whoever says the story the best gets me captivated at that particular time. So yeah, if you had said your favorite poet, I would have said myself. I mean, but everyone else I would love. I mean, in everything. I do not really like have one singular person, but I appreciate everyone for their talent. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, my favorite is L2, and my favorite song is Tropical Lakes. But anyway, as we conclude, Mr. Robert, what word of advice would you give to youngster who is aspiring? Why are you laughing?
Is that the song? I mean,
I love the song. Anyway, we need to conclude. So, what word of advice would you give to a youngster who's watching right now and is aspiring to be an aircraft maintenance engineer? Hello?
I think you need to repeat. Mr. Robert, are you still there?
Mr. Robert, can you hear me?
I think it's lagging behind. And he's dying in laughter. Mr. Robert, are you still there? Your question is, what kind of advice would you give to youngsters who are aspiring to be aircraft maintenance engineers? Hello, do we still have you? Internet is breaking, I guess. Hello, Mr. Robert? Yeah, I think we've lost him. Have we?
Hello.
Yes. Yes. Do we still have you on the line? Our question is: if you were the African president of the aviation, I don't know, the aviation board, and we give to to um to 6 year olds, I think maybe 6 year olds, let's say 7 year olds, what kind of advice would you give them about aviation, especially aircraft maintenance engineering? What kind of advice will you give it? 6 year olds. What kind of advice will you give them? Hello? Yeah, the internet is being a hater. So bad. Anyways, as he recollects and as he gathers himself, yes, so we have reached we have reached the end of the show. Mr.
Hello.
Robert, are you still there? Yes.
I'm here. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Did you hear my question?
Yes, I heard it.
The 6 year olds. Did you hear the 6 year old part?
No, 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 no. I
Okay,
didn't hear
let
the
me.
6 year old.
Yes, let me put pressure. Let me put the pressure. Let me push the pressure. I said, imagine you're the president of the aviation board or whatsoever at this very point, and you're giving a speech to inspire 6 year old kids. And I think they're like grade 2 in terms of being an aircraft maintenance engineer. What would you say to this
Oh,
6-year-old?
okay. I would say that you have to choose aircraft maintenance engineering as a profession uh, because besides training you to fix aircraft maintenance will train you discipline. It will give you integrity, and it will give you high precision. So it is a high calling. It is not a profession for the for people who are not willing to go full length in life.
6-year-olds. Yeah.
The- it's a profession for it's a high calling. It is, but again, one thing that I have to warn the 6-year-old is that aviation is an addictive profession. Once you are in it, it is very difficult to wiggle yourself out of it because it is very, very addictive. The way we do things, you will not find as much joy in any other profession. But again, if, for example, you find yourself elsewhere, once you have been in aviation, you'll carry with you the methodical way of doing things, the precise or the high precision that is involved in aviation. You'll carry it with you. And people will be able to discern and say, that person does things differently. And that is aviation for you. It is
Or-
a whole profession. It will make you a whole person, even a musician.
yeah, the 6-year-olds are clapping. Wherever they are, they're clapping. They're clapping. But anyways, I would hate not to. I would hate not to ask this question. I think it is from the African leaders in aviation. It says that what are the in-demand aircraft types that one should be rated on as an aircraft maintenance engineer? This is from the
Current,
audience.
currently, currently in Africa, um, what is quite popular these days is obviously the Embraer. Like the one that we use ourselves is the Embraer 145, simply because it has got the capacity that it carries is good enough. Because if you are carrying 50 people, for example, it means you can be able to you know to take off full all the time. Because if you have a big aircraft, for example, and you are doing your domestic flights and you fail to fill them up, it means you are not being economic on your operations. So I'll give that one as an example. You'll find that there are quite a number of airlines that use it. I don't know if I can mention names, but if you, for example, I'll give you an example. In South Africa, Airlink uses the same aircraft. So it's quite and in Nigeria we also have other airlines using the same aircraft. So it's quite a good aircraft to use. Of course, there will
Incredible.
be disadvantages here and there, but I'm just saying what I know for now. That's one aircraft that is doing quite well. I don't know when Embraer introduces. I'm sure you have read that Embraer is going to introduce another aircraft that will be carrying about what did they say, 78 or 90 passengers. But that one will have props at the back. Maybe no man knows about this. It will be using propeller engines, but mounted at the back. It's a new one.
Ah, interesting. So thank you so much. We've reached the sad part of the show where we get to say goodbye to a guest. And thank you so much, and thank you so much for those who tuned in, viewers wherever you watched us from, Facebook or YouTube. Please do yes, please do join us the next time, same spot, Thursday. And Mr. Robert, do you have any social or any platforms that people can follow you for? I don't know, for any particular reason. It could be music, it could be It could be engineering whatsoever. We would hate for the journey to
Well,
end now.
I'm on Facebook, so they can follow me on Facebook.
Awesome. All right.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me.
All right,
Thank you.
Guru. You can say goodbye to the people and you give us the last words.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Mr. Robert, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We had a wonderful time and we wish you well in all your endeavors. We can't wait for all that you have in store for the African aviation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Awesome. So from the Flight Wings Aviation team, the host Isaac Yami, co-host Gugu, the the guest Robert, it is bye from us. Remember, we're here to inspire, equip, and to empower you. And you are watching The Big Sky, where we get to explore the unlimited possibilities of aviation. Bye, everyone.